Welcome everyone to episode 15 of Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed El Houli, and boy, do we have a show for you guys today. We have a very special guest, Mr. Tony Sheehan. How are you, buddy?
Morning, Ahmed. Can't wait to duck into this fantastic episode of Raw Sports. Huge show ahead, and we discuss the two AFL Finals coming this weekend.
Absolutely. And our special guest is Mr. Anthony Koutoufides, Carlton Legend, 278 games for the Blues. Kouta, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having me on, boys. I appreciate it. What a great time to be a Carlton supporter, I should say that. It's in September. What a wonderful time it is here in Melbourne.
Kouta, you sound a bit blocked up, is it?
Yeah, just a little bit run down, mate. I've had a lot on lately, and so it's nice to just chill out for a couple of days before the big week next week, grand final week, but also before the big games on this weekend.
Well, tell us, has you about all the requests for media performances in the past couple of weeks?
Have they increased, did you say? Have they?
Your phone blown up with all the media requests?
Yes, because you're going a little bit in and out with the mic there, Tane. I'm not sure what's happening. But, yes, I have been inundated quite a bit. And I was away on the Gold Coast last weekend for my Herbalife business, and I had to return Monday. I had to drive out to Kerrang, and I had the Today Show Monday morning, and I've had all these people asked to do interviews via radio and stuff. But it's good, though, because it just shows the excitement. I mean, I know as growing up as a young kid, footy was a religion here, and it's good to see that we've finally got the two powerhouses back around about that top area, Carlton, Collingwood, because growing up, that was like a regular thing to see them play off in finals. And I was a mad Collingwood supporter growing up. My brother was Carlton, and Carlton dominated those couple of decades. And then luckily I ended up at the Carlton Football Club.
Before we get started to the Carlton potential grand final matchup, has the past 2 to 3 weeks with Carlton's success, has it been good for you and the other legends around the footy club in terms of profile and bringing more awareness to what Carlton has been through?
I think so, mate. The Carlton supporters have come out in droves. I mean, like any club that hasn't been successful for a long time, they jump out when the club start to perform well. Richmond were the same thing. When I look back, I didn't even know Richmond had that many supporters until they came good in, I think, 2017 or whatever. And then it was mayhem with their supporters everywhere. So it is exciting. Yes, it brings us out more also. We get more in demand. And I think the younger kids get more involved into the football club and probably want to know more about the history. And so I went last night to say hello to the cheer squad, the Carlton cheer squad, who were doing the banner. And my son Lucas spent so many weeks there. He loves it in there. And so I thought I'd go there because they asked me that. I thought I'd go and say thanks to them for everything that they've done for the footy club. My son loves it. I mean, they're passionate. And for young kids to experience like what Lucas has experienced, he loves it. And so I know they do a lot of good for not only the Carlton Football Club, but for the AFL and the kids and parents. And so I went there to say thanks. And the excitement's enormous. And the young kids had no idea who I was. And so, but that's okay. I'm sure after seeing me, they might see a few little highlights and, and get to understand a little bit more about the Carlton history.
That's a big hit to the ego.
Is that the best question you can ask me, Taylor? Like, yes, mate, it's hard for the head to fit through the door, mate. Yes, it is hard if that's what you want to hear.
No. Well, before I to Ahmed and I were discussing on our last show, Ahmed was saying after last week's fantastic win over Melbourne, he thinks Carlton could be the biggest AFL club in Australia.
I believe so, and I know growing up, I believe they were the most powerful club, most successful club, and so that's when I entered the football club and never really understood until I got there. So out of the 17 years I was on the list, the first 12 were the most incredible years. Great culture, led by the greatest president of all, and that was John Elliott, who created this family environment, and then it disappeared after that. It's taken a long time, and I guess people have been in hiding. I was really concerned back then that kids would start following other football clubs, but having Carlton back up there now, when we're just starting to witness. And I always said for the current batch of players, because I was lucky I walked in when I did. If I walked in the last 10 years, I wouldn't understand the true Carlton Football Club. And I think these current players are just starting to get a little bit of a sniff of how big and enormous the Carlton Football Club is. To have 96,000 people there in the second week of a final, I went into the change rooms after the game. I seen Vossi. I said, mate, Vossi, I've never, ever in my time, and I played at a great era, ever played in front of 96,000 people. And this is only the second week of a final. it is crazy at the moment, and people are just coming out of everywhere. And I think it's great for football, great for AFL, and in particular Carlton Football Club. It's been, as I said, previous 20 years build up all together. Now people have just come up. It's like we've been waiting, and people have just gone absolutely crazy for the football club at the moment.
Kootaroo. So why I say that is I got many people in my circle and extended circles that go for Carlton. They haven't been interested in 20 years, literally. And they've just popped up now. And literally people who haven't watched a footy game, I can almost guarantee you in about 20 years, are now watching the Carlton games and barracking behind TVs and at the actual game. I was at that game. The stadium was shaking. The noise that I've heard, I've been all around the world, watched NFL, boxing, UFC, whatever you want. Never, ever have I encountered a audience or a fan base that's that passionate and relieving so much tension.
I think it's frustration of 20 years of heartache and pain, really, and even maybe longer. You know, the belief, the hope at the start of every year, thinking maybe we've got it now. And in round 15, I sort of almost put up the white flag myself and said, I've had enough. I mean, if they have to rebuild with the list that they've got here, we're in all sorts of trouble. Whatever Vossi and the gang did after that has been absolutely remarkable. I often talk about the times of Brisbane back in 2001 when we destroyed them. It was about round 7 or 8, and we beat them by 10 goals plus, and everyone was like, God, how bad at Brisbane? And I think they lost the next game just to Adelaide. Then they never lost one game after that. But I've never seen, and Geelong was the same. I reckon that first year, 07, when they won their premiership, they started slow. I've never seen a club come from round 15, sitting in 15th, to go to where they are. Could it be a fairy tale end? Maybe. And we have certainly got some great passionate Carlton supporters that have dropped off the bandwagon. The game hasn't been quite the spectacle as what it was, in the 80s and 90s, which I think was the peak of AFL football. But whatever they're producing now was an exciting game on the weekend, Friday night. And although there wasn't too many goals, we'd love to see a higher scoring encounter. But what I seen was that hard and tough footy, pressure. You understand how fit you need to be an AFL footballer, because it was relentless for 4 quarters. And to hear the stadium, like what you said, it was shaking. I've never seen anything like it. I got a bit emotional myself because I think of my young kid, Lucas, who's 13, who loves the club and has never really seen it. And there was times I know he wanted to jump off the bandwagon. He's thinking, why do I vote for Carlton? But now it's all worth it as he starts to see it. If we can sneak through this weekend, the build up to the grand final, and we can steal that premiership goal. I don't know about steal, but if we can win it, oh my God, I can't even imagine what's going to happen to this city here, in particular Lygon Street. Lygon Street, I'm staying away from that place there because it's going to be worse than when Italy won the World Cup soccer or European Cup, whatever they won, when it went mad over there, and it's going to be so much fun.
Just since we're going back in time, do you see any similarities between this team and the team that beat Essendon by 1 point in 1999?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, 1999 really, we got destroyed in that first week of the final, but luckily the way the final system was there, we got West Coast Eagles on the MCG, and we just tweaked our game plan. So we came into the Essendon game with a little bit more confidence, but in saying that, Essendon had beaten us by over 40 points the first time and almost 80 the second time. So they were clearly the best team in the competition, and they would pretty much look like they were unbeatable. But for me, this current batch of players since round 15 have probably been the best team in the AFL, maybe, along with Melbourne, that would have been great also. Maybe Brisbane, maybe GWS, but to me, it looked like Carlton had just been the best team in the competition. And so it's a little bit different pathway to what we did in 99. That game there, and I dare say would probably go down as, Carlton's favourite, the supporters' favourite game of all time, apart from the premierships. But that game on the weekend, I could be a bit biased, but a lot of people say it was... I don't think as good, but, very close to what 99 prelim final was. And that's what a lot of people are saying. But we went into the game such underdogs, whereas that was in 99. But in this game here Friday night, I believe that Carlton could get over the line against Melbourne. And so it's a little bit different scenario, but they're producing something very special. And going into the change rooms after the game, you feel like there's something special brewing. I don't know what it is. You can't capture it unless you're, within the confined walls of the Carlton Football Club there in the inner sanctum. So, could I be, making this stuff up? Maybe, but we'll find out this weekend. And if they get through the following weekend, could they produce something really special?
Harrison's last week's win over Melbourne to 99 and the potential which I hate to say it to you, but the Blues have already played their grand final?
Yeah, that's a fair point, Tony. I mean, the way they celebrated last week, it was like they'd won a premiership, probably like what we did in the 99 prelim final. I think these guys are a little bit different, though. They're ready for it because since round 15, they've just enjoyed their footy and been able to win games. There's no pressure on them. And, by not having the pressure, they're just going out there and enjoying themselves. And Vossi seems to be a different coach. He's a lot more laid back than when he was on the footy field, I can assure you. He was a maniac out there. He was hard and tough and a great player, but he seems to be enjoying it as well. And I think he's getting the guys to enjoy every single moment of it. So you're right, Tony. We could look back and say, oh, my God, that was their grand final the week before. But I think with the confidence and everything that they're bringing into the game, mate, I've seen the Western Bulldogs do it out of the top four many years ago. And that's why I always said it before the final series. Statistically, I'll tell you, it's very difficult to win from fifth position or outside of the top four. But statistically, it said that it's been done before and it can be done again. And so between them, GWS, you never know. They may be playing off together in a grand final. I love to see Carlton and Collingwood. It will blow up Australia. And I always say it's the race that stops the nation is the Melbourne Cup. But can you imagine these two teams? Mate, forget about that. The Melbourne Cup, this will be the biggest game of all time.
Wow, I could just imagine. I mean, you have to pretty much just shut down the whole of Victoria. Not one car will leave. We'll be on the roads, a bit like COVID. But yeah, absolutely. My question, one of the key comparisons that I like to make is from somebody who's been in the game, who's played the game many years ago now. What would you say is the biggest difference between the game that you played and the game today?
Back then it was more one-on-one. I think it was exciting footy when I played. You knew who was playing on who, and it was a contest. It was physical. It was hard. It was brutal, but it was fun to watch. No matter if you sit in the crowd, you can watch it full forward, and the ball might be a full back, and there's exciting things happening. Whether you're bumping your opponent or whatever, have a bit of a wrestle, and then when the ball's at full forward, you look at full back. The big gorillas are wrestling down there. It was an incredible game. And I know when I had my relatives come from Italy back in 1995 and they were here, they watched the last 6 weeks of our season and they fell in love with the game and, brought all that love over there back to Italy for where my mum's from in the town. And when I go back there in the bar, they have a poster of me and a couple of the bars would have posters. So, mate, it was a phenomenal game. It's a different game now. It's more like, it's a maze of plays and sharing the ball. But I don't know, the last year or two, the game has become a lot more exciting than what it was maybe 5 years ago. And I don't know if it's because the teams that are, like Carlton are back up there and things like that. It's a great game to watch, but it's a completely different game. There's a lot more rules to it. It's been changed dramatically. But it's still a wonderful game and totally admire the athletes that play nowadays. I think I played in the greatest era with the greatest players of all time. But they're still phenomenal players now.
Hey, Kudo. Questions everybody wants to know the answer to. One, who can win out of Collingwood v GWS Friday night? And two, can your Blue Boys get over the Brisbane Lions? And three, will you be going to any of the games?
Yeah, so I won't be going to the Carlton GWS game. I've given
Collingwood
Collingwood GWS. So, look, I think GWS in better form. I just think on the MCG, Collingwood, their Collingwood Army, the supporters, Nick Dacos coming back. I'm going to go Collingwood, and I believe Carlton can. If there's any team that can beat Brisbane up there, and it's a fortress up there as we know, but I've seen some stats that they have lost games up there come finals time, so the pressure will be on them. If there's any team that can beat Brisbane up there, it's Carlton with the momentum they have, and. So I'm going Carlton, Collingwood, and that's what I think I'm hoping for. So it'll be a massive grand final, and let's see how we go. GWS were in third gear last week against Port Adelaide. They are an unbelievable team, and no doubt can beat Collingwood for what I've seen. They're the only team that made Carlton look second rate in that last round of the home and away season. But in saying that, Carlton had no incentive to play for, whereas GWS did. But they've been phenomenal as well. Two ripping finals game. So the Brisbane game, I'm not 100% sure if I'm still checking out flights now, but I definitely won't be going to the Collingwood GWS, but I'll be definitely watching on television.
That private jet?
The private jet's not available this weekend, unfortunately, mate. Otherwise, I would have been on it.
All right, Ahmed. All right. Kuda, before we wrap up, one last question. What's your advice to a young man or young woman trying to play at the highest level in today's game or make it there?
Yeah, you got to have that focus. I think as a young kid, I really had that dream of either representing Australia at the Olympics or playing AFL, VFL footy back then. And so there was a lot of distractions along the way, and some of my mates went a little bit this way or that way. And I said, well, if I want to go here, I can't go that way. And so there's a little bit of peer pressure and discipline and commitment to my cause, and I stayed true to myself. And, I committed to sport, and I made that a priority. And as much as I had to study as well, and of course study is priority, but sport, footy, athletics was everything to me. And so I really had my eye on the prize, and I was able to do it. And so stay committed, have fun along the journey. It's not going to be easy. I went through a lot of ups and downs, and eventually the door opened for me, and I took that opportunity. And there were some tough decisions I had to make as well, but they were worth it at the end. And so, yeah, just believe and stick. And no matter what anyone says, to keep working at it. And even if people are a lot more talented, I've seen talent. I've seen guys that work harder than talent, and those guys always succeed. So even though you feel like there's not a light at the end of the tunnel, just keep going, because you just never know when the light appears, and all of a sudden the door opens and something special happens.
Who's Kouta? Where? Carlton, Brisbane.
Say that again, Tone.
Where will you be watching Carlton v Brisbane?
I dare say at home at this stage. I don't want to be anywhere. I just want to be left alone and just watch the game without distractions. Yeah. Because go.
And I was going to say, will you be biting your fingernails, and what will the nerves be like?
I was really nervous last week also, so I am very nervous. Yes, I'll be on the edge of my seat, and mate, I'll be screaming loud. Whenever I used to go to footy, I never used to say a lot, but now all of a sudden, I don't know what's happened to me as well. I've become a bit that white line fever. Not that I never had it when I played, but I feel it as a spectator now. I find it hard to be a spectator. I'd rather be playing than be a spectator, because at least you control it on the field. But it was a bit like when I coached my son under 13s this year. We got to the grand final, we won by 1 point. I found it harder to coach. I was more nervous. No, I don't know about more nervous, but I was just, I found it harder to coach than what it was to play.
Wow. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Koutoufides, Carlton Legend, thank you very much for joining us on Raw Sport.
My pleasure, boys. Thank you. All the best, and go the Blues.
Go the Blues.
Go Blues.
All right, Tony, there you go. Some insightful commentary from the Carlton Legend himself.
He was fantastic. Very insightful, Ahmed, as you just said.
Absolutely. And, I mean, for the Blues, this is like we've said many times, and we're probably starting to repeat ourselves a bit. The amount of emotion that's gone into these games, and literally that's why, as we were talking about it, and I was saying it was almost like they're releasing tension each time a goal's being scored. That last, I'll never forget it. That last goal that Akers marked just outside the square and kicked the goal, mate, it was like these people had this anger built up in them for years, and they just let it go. It was that sort of noise. It was noise or sound of anger and passion. So, I mean, I really hope they can get over the line this week, because I think it'll be an amazing, advantageous win for the AFL and for the game as a whole. And I can almost guarantee you next year, Carlton will have the most members. Okay, that's number one. Number two, for Melbourne, it's a bit of a victory after some hard years, COVID, lockdowns, some harsh, ugly time. I think it'll brighten up the atmosphere, the culture, the cultural aspect of things will come back to life. Maybe we can get all these Italian espressos and meals on wheels and Lygon Street back alive again, mate, because that's what Melbourne used to be before COVID. It used to be that. But anyway, I digress. But
well, the funny thing is, and I could really feel the emotion. It was almost palpable that I could feel you and Kouta talking about this Blake Acres moment, which will go down in history as one of the most defining moments, not only in Carlton's history, but AFL history in terms of noise pollution. And I know pollution is the wrong word, but in terms of the electricity generated out of that Carlton-Melbourne game when Acres kicked the goal to put the Blues in front over Melbourne, it was unbelievable. I was watching it on television at home, and there was almost a tear in my eye because of the raw emotion. Like, I think a lot of people had Melbourne winning the game, but for those that were there, or those that were there not knowing what the next 90 seconds would hold, and then for Akers to kick that goal out of nowhere was just unbelievable.
Absolutely, mate. And honestly, it's one of those moments that will go down in history. But we'll move on because we have lots to talk about. AFL Media Awards, some controversy at the AFL Media Awards. We have some breaking news.
Well, this is a big news alert. The AFL Media Awards were held in Melbourne on Tuesday night, and this is where the AFL's media gathered to honour themselves and hand out the awards for the best in their chosen category. But a former VFL star turned commentator, Rex Hunt, has sullied the night. He's taken over the night. Now, I'm not sure how many people within the room of about, I don't know, maybe 200 are actually aware of this. But Rex Hunt walked in. He was supposed to be there with a carer. And this was preempted by an article in the Sunday Herald Sun to say that there was a former AFL or VFL champion who had a beanie's bonnet with two media legends. Rex Hunt, who is suffering at the moment with an undiagnosed illness, walked in, made a beeline for the Ages and Channel 9's Caroline Wilson and uttered some extremely distasteful words. And such was the effect that Rex Hunt's words had on Caroline Wilson, she felt threatened and was disgusted and left the awards night. Now, not only did she leave the awards night because of Rex Hunt, but also she was a keynote speaker and felt very uneasy and decided to leave. And then Rex Hunt had then gesticulated that he was going after Mike Sheehan, and AFMA president Damien Barrett became aware of the situation, called security, and security had to intervene in a potential clash between Rex Hunt and Mike Sheehan, ruining the night for many in the room.
Wow. Definitely definitely an eventful night. I mean, Rex Hunt was a media personality and somebody that we used to love to listen to.
Yes.
Sorry, mate?
A huge media personality.
Yeah.
You are right.
Yeah, he was, absolutely. Whether it's fishing or whether it's him calling the footy, I mean, it was full of excitement and entertainment. But as they say, father time, this is life. We go through ups and downs. He's unfortunately unwell because I've seen a few other comments that he's been making recently. And he needs help. He needs help, and we hope he gets the help that he needs. But also on the night, we had Tom Morris awarded the Alf Brown Trophy.
So I want to explain how this situation has arisen.
Go ahead.
Tom Morris was previously employed by Fox Sports, Fox Footy, and he, some 18 months ago, had made some derogatory comments, which was in a private WhatsApp chat group, which then became public, which then forced Fox Sports to act and terminate his service as a journalist. So SEN has employed Tom Morris at the start of the 2023 AFL season. Yes, he's a very good journalist, and he has done some outstanding work this year. He broke the Damien Hardwick termination story. Well, I shouldn't say termination story, the resignation story. And he's had a pretty good year, or probably a very good year. But on Tuesday night, he was awarded the Alf Brown Trophy for the best journalist across all platforms for the AFL media across season 2023. Now, as I said to you off camera, Ahmed, and to others within the industry, I'm all for second, third, fourth, and fifth chances. Tom Morris is a very good journalist. But to award him the Alf Brown Trophy this season, I think, is too soon. And do we name the judges, and do they have to be accountable?
Who are the judges?
The judges are Channel 9's Tony Jones, legend Mike Sheehan, and Brownlow medalist and Fox Footy commentator Gerard Healy.
What are you insinuating?
Well, I'm not insinuating anything, but if there's been a lot of backlash through social media channels about Tom Morris's award. Now, I have no issue in Tom Morris being the best journalist in his chosen field this year, but to win the Alf Brown Award, I think is going way too far, and I think there needs to be some time for people to absorb the situation. And yes, he's apologised profusely. We have no issues with that. But there has to be some time between offence and wiping the slate clean. If it was season 2024-25, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But to come back so soon, I think the judges need to read the room.
I personally think there's nothing wrong with it, because for them to let him back in and him back in the workplace in his profession, that means that it's finished. They've forgiven him for the past. And then
I have no issue. I don't know. As I said, I have no issue with the award, the award being best in category, but to win the overall Alf Brown Trophy, which is the best amongst every media person in the country, I think is too soon.
But why? You've let him back in. So you're saying to him you can come back and operate as a journo or writer or whatever you want, right? So what if he produced the best work, he should win it because he's been back. It's it. He's back in the fold.
Well, okay. I think this is a really bad comparison, but it's a bit like Qantas. You've got to read the room. So they shouldn't win this year or next year best airline because they haven't been. So therefore, I have no issue, as I said, and I'll reiterate, Tom Morris winning the award for the best person in his category, but I don't think he should be the Alf Brown Trophy winner.
But it's different. You got to compare apples with apples. Qantas service is disgusting. The Tom Morris situation was a comment he made via comments he made via a WhatsApp text that was made public.
Yeah, I just think it's too soon to whitewash what he said.
We beg to differ, but we'll keep going. All right. So, according to the Herald Sun, current AFL players don't earn above $1 million a season. Outside three. Dusty, what used to be Buddy, the Bont. He's gone. He's finished.
Buddy.
He's finished. And the GWS captain, is he on the mill?
Maybe.
Toby Green.
But we believe he could be.
Okay. So let's say three current players, right? Wayne Carey was earning $1.4 million in the year 2000, right? I'm going backwards.
That's my point. But look, the AFL has.
We're going backwards, and the leagues are making more money.
No, of course, that's what I can't fathom. Look, the reporting was fairly substantial. The journalists did a pretty good job, but I think in regards to player payments, they were out by $100,000 or $200,000. But the overall reporting suggests that AFL players today are grossly underpaid. Wayne Carey was arguably the greatest player of all time. And in 2000, he said to his then manager, Ricky Nixon, I don't care what North Melbourne wants. I want $1.4 million gross. Otherwise, I won't play. I won't play for anything less. So how does then Dustin Martin, Marcus Bontempelli and Buddy Franklin and a sprinkling of a few others get the same amount of money 23 years later?
Less.
Well, yeah, less.
Because if you compare it with the inflation to this time, it's more.
Oh, exactly. And Wayne Carey was getting, I think, 90% of the Kangaroos marketing budget. And he was also being paid by Nike and a host of other sponsors. So you're right. I mean, it's magnified the gross disparity with which players are being paid today.
Absolutely. And we believe that there's been a new CBA agreement between the AFL and the AFLPA for the men and women's game. It's going to be interesting to see what that means. It's going to be interesting to say how much more both sides of the game will be getting. But from all reports, like for example, the average AFL wage will be increased to between $405,000 and $405,000 to $600,000. If we look back at some of the numbers here, Greg Williams signed a deal from Geelong to Sydney at the end of 1985, 5 years for $200,000 a year. So the average player is getting $600,000 now. Some say we've come a long way. I don't believe so. That was 1985 was how many years? Almost 30 years ago. So
Yeah.
if you do look at the comparison, they're probably on par. What 200,000 got you back then, and what 600,000 gets you now. I mean, how much were houses in 1985? 30 grand, 20 grand.
Somewhere between what? Yeah, 30 and 70.
In the chosen land in Newport, houses were in Newport, Victoria.
Chosen
Melbourne.
land?
Yeah, it's a chosen land. Houses were going in the late 80s and early 90s for 20, 30 grand. So at that time, he could have bought every year 3 or 4 houses 10 minutes from the middle of the CBD. So when you compare that with that, now 600,000 won't even get you half a house in Newport. So this is what we're talking about there. And I'm only using Newport because this is what I know. This is where I've been brought up. I live. So pretty much I see it as a failure because the media rights are in the billions of dollars now. And yeah, they're adding more to the game, but really, how much more are they adding? Like they own 50% of Champion Data, and that's a self-run entity. But in terms of the game as a whole, I don't know. It's interesting. But anyway.
Yeah, look, you and I have both been huge advocates of players today being underpaid. It's not good enough. Yes, the average wage of a player has increased exponentially to, I think you said 400,000 to 500,000, but our best players are being undervalued by the clubs and by the AFL as a whole.
What it comes down to, Tony, what people don't realise is the share of revenue. What percentage of that revenue does the AFL players receive? And we spoke about this many weeks ago. It was currently at 28%. They were fighting for 32%. The bigger leagues around the world are around the 48, 49%. Right? So why are we so grossly underpaying our athletes? Again, we're so fixated on this stupid model of minimalizing things. Everything has to be, no, we can't give them any more than that. That's showing off. That's showboating. But the executives are getting paid more than the actual players.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And the other part being, which I think you and I have discussed, in America, they build for the future. In Australia, they build for today.
Or maybe yesterday, in some cases.
Exactly.
I mean, just by looking at who's going to be doing the grand final entertainment, Kiss is yesterday, brother. It's not today or tomorrow. Kiss is yesterday. I mean, this is, yeah.
Why haven't, and you and I were critical of the AFL and its entertainment budget and also the choice of Kiss. Now, I think Kiss is a fantastic band, but you've got to read the room. Why aren't we looking at acts that are for today and tomorrow? Whether it be, Robbie Williams was a fantastic choice, but you can't have one good year out of 20.
Mate, it's just, look, it's just one of those things where we're so fixated on hitting all these pointless social causes and their targets. And we've gone so far away from worrying about improving the game itself, other than a few rule changes. And that's what happens. They're so distracted with everything else. They're so distracted with this round and that round and this week and that week and that week and that week. And guess what? The same people have been watching the footy for the last 100 years. It's the same cycle of people, whether you're Lebanese, Arab, you're whatever, like whatever you want, Aussie. They're the same people, same groups have been watching footy for the last 100 years, right? So it's just nonsense. We're getting so caught up. Well, they are getting so caught up in all their social causes. Focus on the game. I mean, if we go back to the start of the year, Gil McLaughlin, he was so proud of himself for putting two TVs in Marvel Stadium. I mean, he goes, wow, look at that beauty. I mean, have you seen those things? They're tucked away in at the top of the roof, and reporters were there. They were making fun of him, thinking we didn't even pay attention to it. And that's an aging stadium. I mean, it's got no technology. It's very old. It's dim. It's dark. So,
although I must say, yes, you're right, but they do have a good surface. They have finally done something with the surface, but at the same time, that spongy cork, which they have implemented, they refuse to discuss because of the potential legal issues. And now
what's so good about their surface? You mean they got the surface right, like they should have in the first place?
Right, yes, maybe.
Yeah, you got stadiums around the world that have surfaces being elevated and being pushed underneath another surface and have literally production cycles below the surface that are curating this surface all day long. So when it comes up, and we're happy that we laid a piece of grass right. Come on, Tony.
No, but Ahmed, originally it was some grass laid on concrete because there was a car park underneath Marvel Stadium. So then in one of the off seasons, they approached a Europe-based company with frontman Colin Scott, the Australian who was the former NFL star. He was the frontman and introduced this new sponge cork type mod grass scenario for Marvel Stadium, and he has improved the texture of the grass and is no longer a burden on the players competing each week.
Look, honestly, I find an issue with actually talking about this because, as they say, these are the bare necessities. We can't get grass right. We can't get grass right. We shouldn't even be in the business of managing stadiums because that's a joke. You go to Tottenham Hotspur, you don't even have to buy a ticket. Everything's digital. Everything's tracked. Every step the customer takes, we know what you're going to buy. We know how you buy things. You come in, traffic flows. The platform, literally the ground rises, moves, a new piece of ground comes on top and sits. Everything robotic, coming in and out. I mean, come on. So we got our grass right.
Yeah, okay, one more. Does Marvel Stadium need to be knocked down and rebuilt?
It is a disaster. I went there when the Blues played the Lions this year. But I couldn't wait to get out of there. It's so dim and dingy. It just got no life. This is the thing. These executives, they have no
foresight.
They have they have no character, mate. There's their taste isn't there when it comes to making things look good or doing things, thinking outside the box. They're so stuck like robots doing what they do day in, day out, that they can't think outside the box. And it's evident in what they're doing day to day, right? So this is the reason why that stadium is in the way it is. Mate, they have one of the best partners in the world, Marvel Stadium. Imagine the things they could do at that stadium with Marvel that would be like activations and so on. Would be phenomenal. The AR, the augmented reality during the game. One game last year in America, I think it was the Carolina Panthers. They had a panther running on the ground, AR, a big panther, big animation, right? What are we doing? We barely get grass. or a good pitch.
All right, let's move on.
Oh, that was a bit of a rant, but anyway, we'll keep going.
Ideas though, they've really they have a lot of foresight, and your creativity is good.
All right, Melbourne Demons blaming Brayshaw's concussion as the reason why they're not going to try. So these guys are delusional. I mean, seriously, Melbourne Demons, suck it up, as they say, mate. Go buy yourselves a bag of concrete each, and just put a bit of water in it, mix it, and go and have the odd scoop and pass it around the change room, mate. Because seriously, it's ridiculous. You cost yourselves the finals 2 years straight. You have an unbelievable team. You got a young man by the name of Pickett who gives away 3-4 every single game. He needs to be he needs to be disciplined. Start there. Well, that was a big factor. There was a shot at goal to a down the ground. So these are the things. Discipline, mate. Not hard. Get you guys in order. Focus on the 1%ers. That's been thrown over the window, apparently. But anyway, what are your thoughts?
Oh, totally. I don't need to add to that. I think you're spot on.
Yeah. NRL start. Valentine Holmes, penalty dished out. What are your thoughts?
Well, as we discussed on our last show on episode 14, Valentine Holmes was photographed after the end of season with a can of alcohol and something that looked like a bag of white substance.
Or a white cardboard.
Or a white cardboard. I said it looks like. I didn't say it was. But the NRL has adjudicated and fined him $25,000 and banned him for one game.
So they went down the approach that we spoke about last week. Minimal suspension and a very big fine.
Yes.
For that tennis athlete. See that
I swear that they are listening.
Simona Halep, right?
Simona Halep's a tennis player. She was caught with steroids and was given 4 years.
Yeah, but that's who we're talking about, the 1 year and a big fine, remember?
Yes.
Which is 12 months. So they've implemented that basically. With least what, mate?
Theoretically, yes.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Theoretically. Yeah, interesting. Look, I think it's a bit harsh to fine somebody 25 grand for drinking a can of beer. The game doesn't hurt as much. It might because anyway. I think unless they have solid evidence and proof that was cocaine or a substance of an illegal substance, he should walk away scot-free.
No, I have to disagree. I think it's a bad look, and whoever uploaded it to social media is an absolute imbecile. Now, if he was photographed with just the can...
Say it, Tony. Say it. He's an absolute what? Just say it. Feel free to say it, brother.
No, well, no, there's a lot of adjectives that I could use to describe the person who uploaded it, but Valentine...
He's an absolute dusted unit. That's the way they go.
Dusted. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it should have just been $25,000. You even said it yourself last week that when you hit an athlete in the hip pocket, they are very, very reluctant to do it again.
Yes, because they don't like to let go of it in the first place for anything. It's actually known. So anyway, all right, we'll keep going. Hey, have you heard of this team? Starts with M. I can't remember what they're called.
Manchester United?
No, they're a team that is meant to represent the country, and they've just disappeared, or they used to exist a couple of months ago.
Oh, are you talking about that team that was actually had the highest ratings in history about a month ago?
Yeah, something like that. I just don't know where. Have they jumped ship or left the country or what?
Is the second letter A?
Yeah, apparently.
And then a T?
Oh, yes. The Matildas. Jeez.
The Matildas. Now,
whatever.
They were the most spoken.
Where are they?
Guys, history of this country.
Where are they gone?
And then the AFL. Sorry, I'll start that again. Our federal government and our mainstream media has dropped the ball. This is ridiculous. How can every person in the country was glued to their screen for 3 weeks during the recent World Cup in Australia, and now whatever happens with the Matildas, let's bury them in our mainstream media publications? How idiotic.
Down the bottom of the paper there, I think they got this much.
Yeah, I sent it to you. It was out of one of the core publications.
This much they got.
It's a travesty. If we're going to turn around and have them front page and talk about Sam Kerr's calf injury, and then to follow up in this fashion, it's not good enough.
Well, that's why I never bought in the first place to all the hype, because I knew it's all a political stunt. They're milking them. They're actually working against them. I think that they're working for them. They're working against the team because look now, they've dropped them right out of relevance. No, but out of mind, out of sight.
People who run the country and run our sporting organisations need to have continuity and continue to promote the brand.
100%. All right, we'll move towards wrapping things up. Now, weekend. Pies or the Giants?
I'm going for my beloved Giants. I think
the pie.
Not only because I'm biased, but I also think Collingwood's had an interrupted final series. The Giants have enormous momentum, and I think Adam Kingsley and the boys can get over the Pies Friday night at the G.
You'd be shocked to think I actually agree with you. I agree with you. I think they will beat them. I don't know why. I have this feeling that they will beat them. We could be wrong, but that's our feeling. The Blues or the Lions?
I want the Blues to win, but I think the Lions will.
Yeah, I think the Blues are all battered up. To be honest, I think they're all battered up. I think that they played their grand final last week. Hart wants them to win. Brain says the Lions. So I think we'll end up having an interstate grand final in Melbourne. That would be a disaster for the AFL.
We have agreed on 2 counts for the same issue. My only point being is, who does Vossi want to win on Saturday? Yes, coach of Carlton.
The team is coaching. Not even a question.
Of course he does, but don't you find it the irony unbelievable to think that Michael Voss is coaching for a grand final position against the club he made famous?
100%. He was a legend. He's a legend of the Lions.
3-time premiership captain, absolute superstar.
Legend, and three in a row, not 3 scattered, 3 in a row. They were going on to number 4, which
Probably
they lost in the grand final.
Greatest team of all time.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, all right, everyone. Thank you very much. And as I do every single week, I'm coming to my man Tony with some words of wisdom.
To end the show?
Yes, mate. Then for what? Come on.
Words of wisdom this week are, GWS, take your jackets because Melbourne is going to be freezing.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Rug up. We'll catch you all next week on Tuesday, 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everyone. Au revoir.
Bye for now.